welcome to On the House, where we review movies, TV shows, and video games because, hey, whatever we want to talk about's on the house. Joining me, as always, is Dave.
Welcome.
Lynette.
Howdy.
And a special guest, may become a more regular guest, Jake.
What's up?
And folks, we're going to be looking at a video game series today. Not just any video game series, but one that I would say is literally in every single pizza parlor in the world during the 90s and early aughts. That's right, we're looking at the Cruis'n series. But since this was Dave's idea for a podcast, why don't you go first, Dave?
Well, I can remember, maybe it wasn't pizza parlors, but a lot of arcades I went to as a young boy. I saw at least one of the first two games. It wasn't until like the internet age did I even realize there was a third, but I played a lot of USA and World growing up, and actually like a used game store that was near my college campus had the arcade cabinet for World, so I got a lot of fun out of that. And it's just, they're very simple games, but they just bring up so much nostalgia for me that I wanted to talk about them.
Yeah, there's a lot of good memories with these games. Jake, how about your thoughts with them? I know you're kind of a newbie to the franchise.
Well, actually, not really a newbie. I used to play this one. I think it was the Cruise World, I think it was.
Okay.
I remember playing that first map all the time at the racetrack because they had it like two arcade machines out in where the vendors are for the food and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I would always beg my mom just to have a couple quarters just to play the racing game because on this one they had the actual steering wheel for it. Since of course it's a racetrack, they modified it into an actual steering wheel and a seat for it. And the one thing I do have to say about the game, it probably has the first GIF ever. Probably. Not saying it does, but you know, at the end of the race, how it has that lady holding the trophy.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the first GIFs ever. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with that one. But actually rewatching like a playthrough on it brought back a lot of memories. And also, I gotta say, it's a lot like. Probably a little bit better than the first Need for Speed game that came out.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
How about you, Lynette?
Well, I mean, there was a couple of local pizza parlors. Clancy, you'll know these two. There was Vernie's and there was Poker Pete's. They both had Cruis'n the World. That was probably probably my favorite of the arcade games. And I used to play it all the time, every time I went to the pizza place, either one of the pizza places. And I actually, at Vernie's, was where I won for the first time. I actually went through the entire game, probably only because I had a surplus of quarters. I think it was like my birthday or something. But that was the only time I ever actually got through the whole game. But it was really awesome. I love that game so much. But Cruis'n the World's the only one I ever got to play, though. I never actually got to play the other ones. I did get to try the console version at some point, I think, or I got to watch somebody play it. I didn't realize that you could actually play on the moon on the on the console version. That was actually kind of cool to find out.
Yeah, that wasn't. Go ahead.
That's a bonus track at the end of the console version.
And as for myself, kind of like what Lynette said, this was at several pizza parlors, and it was always, you know, as a kid, you talk your parents out of like a couple quarters. And this was the must-play one.
This one and the hunting ones.
And as for my wife, I was rewatching the game and play just to refamiliarize myself with it. And my wife came in and she's like, "Oh my gosh, they had this at the pizza parlor right next to us." So it's a pretty universal experience, I feel like.
For sure.
You could say it's a world experience.
Cruis'n the world.
Yeah,
I want to know is the person who sung that's ever been identified.
I don't know. I mean, the chick.
Are you sure it was a dude or a chick? Who knows?
Well, they use different singers for different games. I know that.
Uh-huh.
But I know the person who is identified is the gift lady who waves the flag.
Oh
Oh,
wait,
really?
that's based on a real person.
Yeah, that is apparently an adult film star who I forget her name, so let's call her Brandy Max.
Oh my word.
Oh my god! Wait, adult movie or like an actual movie star?
An adult film, a porno.
Why am I not surprised? Because those yabos.
I can't even say I'm surprised either. But wow, that's something new.
And actually, I can't even be surprised also because the ending just absolutely floored me when I was a kid. I was so confused because, are we going to talk about the ending yet, or should we not bring that up?
Well, it's not like it's a racing game. There's no real spoilers in it.
Right, but there's an adult film star for the flag waving girl, and then at the end you got Bill Clinton in like a space lander hot tub with two girls. I was so confused at the end of that game. I barely knew who Bill Clinton was when I won the game, and I was just like, "What? What is this?"
He also shows up at the end of the arcade version of USA too.
Oh my word! The same president?
Yeah, these games both came out during his presidency.
Which
Wow.
I think the first one predated the whole Monica controversy stuff. So
Oh my word! So he was already typecast as a horn dog even before that.
I guess so.
I gotta say, because of their both release dates and those little Easter eggs at the end, these truly are examples of gaming in the Clinton years.
Wow.
Mm.
I see the Clinton part as how certain games have secret spoilers or secret like like doors
Easter
and stuff.
eggs?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Easter egg. I see that kind of as an Easter egg, but not really. What would you say is the word for in between an Easter egg and a part of the game?
I guess just secrets.
I mean, yeah, I would say it's
Yeah,
but because it's an ending, I mean, I guess it's what I don't get though is it's clearly a kid's game, and it's not like it's that hard to get to the end. So did they just think that if you have that many quarters, you must be the adult playing, so you'll get the joke?
Well, I think part of it is, let's be honest,
or it's a
we
spoiled
make
kid
fun of
that
every
doesn't care.
president.
And also, since this was the 90s, this was back before the internet, and somebody who, found this, if you told this to other people, oh, you get to the end and you just see, the president in a hot tub, it would just sound like an urban legend that would gradually spread until people could see
It
it for
was an urban
themselves.
legend. I used to talk about it to everybody I met. Whenever we would talk about Cruis'n the World, I'd be like, "Do you guys know at the end there's this weird ass ending?" I would talk about it exactly like it was an urban legend.
Well, just in this day and age, no game secrets remain secrets. They're discovered and become common knowledge within a week of release.
Mm-hmm.
It's
So,
like even with games where they have well-hidden secrets that devs end up showing them just because it's like, hey, we put this work into this and no one's
Yeah.
wow. Also, did you know in one of the games they actually had it to where that you can play as a police car or a bus?
Yeah, I remember the school bus. I don't remember the police car.
Yeah, it's like this weird when you go to the car select, you choose you have to do this certain buttons to or to get it to play.
I think it'd be fun to take the school bus and run into the giraffes and elephants. That was always my favorite part of the game. My favorite part of the game was running into the animals and watching them explode into cuts of meat.
And we wonder why Lynette became a person who cuts up dead bodies for a living.
And that was like censored on the N64 port.
I
Yes.
know, I couldn't believe that. I was like, oh, you mean we get to go to the moon, but we can't, make animals into steaks? What is this?
Well, the N64 was notorious for its censorship of things. Like, you had the bloodless Mortal Kombat, and, well, just using another example from Cruis'n, they made the one actress wear a shirt for those scenes.
Oh my word.
Okay, so I found it. So it was actually the Cruis'n USA. They had a secret Jeep, bus, cop car, and what looks to be like a Ferrari red car that you could find out how to do the cheat code and get those to actually play them.
Which, gotta say, as a person who owns a Jeep, the fact that that was a car that you can race with, it's probably the most hilarious thing ever to me.
I
Yeah.
always liked on the track, there's always one guy with a big brown truck. I love that. just the one guy who's joining the race with his big brown truck. That's awesome.
And I think like on the arcade versions, they used real car brands, but for the N64 ports, they just made up names so that they weren't licensing to anything.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I'm kind of surprised you can see any sort of brand names. The graphics aren't that good. I mean, they're good for like the time, but
And
Yes.
like I gotta go ahead.
This was the era when games could actually, once you beat them, show individual photos of all their creators or something.
oh yeah, that was cool. I like how the astronauts hit the screen at the end. It's flat. That's cute.
And I do have to say, you know how like usual arcade games, it basically looks like a 2D game, and the steering of the car really is just like you move over one lane or you move over the other lane. This one actually had okay physics, but back then they were like super great physics
Yeah.
for that time.
I mean, I'd love to see one of these in an arcade and replay them. Just
Oh yeah, for sure. If I was to go walk into a pizza parlor, I absolutely would throw away a few quarters to play the game again. The tracks aren't even that long. I mean, the entire game takes a half hour. If you got a half hour to kill, you can win the game.
You can actually go on Amazon, and it's about $18 for a Nintendo 64 version.
Yeah, but then you'd have to have an N64.
I actually have the N64 ports of all three games, and I'll confess, until the internet age, I didn't even realize there was a third game.
well, there's even more games than that I've never played, and
yeah, like there was a third arcade one, like the end of the classic trilogy is Cruis'n Exotica, which is basically just World again, but with a few more like fantasy locations, like Atlantis. Or I think there's even another space one.
Oh my gosh, Atlantis would be so cool because like my favorite part of the Hawaii track is the part where you go underwater and then there's like that shark that has a scuba diver in his mouth. The Atlantis route, that sounds so cool. I want to go see that.
So my question is, if they were to remake this game in today's kind of graphics and style quality of gaming or for racing, how would you think it would be different? Like, of course, like the way the vehicles run would be different. But
well, they did actually create a new installment for the series just 3 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll link you guys the trailer. It's called Cruis'n Blast, which it's basically how they modernized the franchise.
Oh, cool. Wow. That'll be interesting to see.
Also, I also have to say one more thing. There's no way that blue car in Cruis'n World can go 230 miles an hour in fourth gear. There's no way.
Yeah, maybe they're like misreading the kilometers per hour because they give you like both speeds.
I think it said miles per hour, I believe.
I'm pretty
I can
sure it
double.
was miles per hour, yeah. But like even so, it is kind of an absurd speed.
Especially for fourth gear.
It's 90s logic.
My fourth gear only goes like 60 miles an
I don't.
hour
Does it
inside of
even
our four.
change gears? I mean, I don't even
Yeah,
do. I don't remember being able to change gears until some of like the later car games, which wasn't
No,
as much fun because I didn't understand gears.
no, it had it, but it also
yeah.
had the option for an automatic shift.
Oh, okay. So maybe that was what I chose every time because honestly, changing gears was just too confusing for me. It's still too
I mean,
confusing for me. I
when
still can't change gears for
when when the
myself.
when the bar turns red, you shift. No,
That's how it
no,
works? Are you serious? Is that how it
no.
works in real life?
If you want to get the top speed for a race or any racing game, to to have a perfect shift, you want it in the green right before the red.
So,
Man knows his racing games.
from any of the installments, what was your favorite track?
Hawaii for me was one I loved.
I also love Hawaii. I just like to see underground, underwater. It was pretty cool.
I had three, all from World Hawaii, like you guys. I also really like their New York level. And in
Really?
terms of like the foreign set levels, I really like the Japan one. I thought the theme that he had for the Japan and China levels is really good. The soundtrack to these is pretty solid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, rewatching the games, it's like the China theme, especially where you're driving on the Great Wall. That's another
That was
favorite of
really
mine.
cool.
That
I
one
like
looked
at
like a
the
hard
end.
pass,
Oh my
but
gosh, at the end of the China route, I never noticed this because when I was a kid. But when you rewatching the playthrough, and at the end you come to like this giant picture of Chairman Mao. It was just so hilarious. Like just a big reminder, the big red flag, you might say. This is China. Oh, and like also on like the soundtrack for while you're driving through Japan or China, there'll be like parts where the girl just randomly shouts, "Japan is great," or "I like China," or
Hey,
something
yeah, like
like.
she has quotes like for every level.
Yeah.
Well, I must have missed the other ones. I just thought it was so comical how she would just randomly say how great this place was, like thumbs up.
Like in Australia, she'd shout out kangaroo.
yeah.
Oh yeah, like oh look, kangaroos. Yeah.
Then they explode into meat.
Yes. Oh my gosh, but the kangaroos are so hard to hit because they hop. But like that's why my favorite level is Africa because the targets are so big and they're slow. And so
Gotta
you can
say,
slam right into them.
I also loved the Alaska level.
Alaska level.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
right,
what's from
in
Exotica,
USA.
right?
Yeah.
Oh wait, is it? Oh, it's in Exotica. Okay.
Hmm.
Man,
Okay,
that
so
sounds awesome. I want to go to the. I want to play these other games.
They had
I
like
never got to see those.
killer whales jumping and all that stuff.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Like Exotica also has like levels such as Las Vegas, Hong Kong, Korea, Holland.
Korea level sounds cool.
And Mars.
Ooh, Mars. That sounds cool too. Do you get to run into aliens? Do they explode into green steaks?
Okay, I
Remember.
got the full list of Exotica levels here. In order, it's Korea, Atlantis, Sahara, Hong Kong, Alaska, Las Vegas, India, Ireland, Holland, Amazon, Tibet, and Mars.
Ooh, Amazon
wow.
would be so cool. Oh, and Tibet too. How would you get a track on top of the mountains? That's wild. That
And
Oh,
sounds
they
I
have
wild.
there's
they
something I
have
want to say.
racetracks in real life on top of mountains.
What'd you say?
They have real racetracks, like in real life. They have racetracks on mountains.
Oh,
Mhm.
that high up? Wouldn't they
Yeah.
cause problems?
Okay, I have to say one thing. Like, okay, so Cruis'n World and Exotica, which take place all over the world and out of it, they do a good job of showing a variety of countries and environments. Whereas USA, the game confined to just one country, so you would think they would show off a variety of different locations. Just put the fucking map up, Clancy. Half the game is just like California and Arizona.
I honestly say 2/3 of it are California.
And they
So-
didn't include Texas, which is a travesty.
Says the Texan.
Hey, I'm not natural born. I just live here. Wish I was. Shut up.
So on the topic of the games, there are a few maps I had a problem with. Like, what are the worst maps you think in the game? Like, why they are the worst map and how? So mine is the Mexico one. It looked more like
yeah.
it looked a lot more like a Chinese, like, or in China, like where the dragons would spit fire at you in Cruis'n World.
I mean, they're supposed to be like Aztec dragons or something, but even so,
It's more like it's Chinese, like more like a Chinese dragon.
right. Well, and that's the thing too. Is like, I mean, I've been to Mexico. It wasn't nearly that green. Maybe it's supposed to be like closer to Central America, but even so, it really didn't look very much like Mexico, aside from the one Aztec pyramid that you pass by a couple times.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I meant to mention that I completely forgot about was in the Russia level.
Oh, you mean?
Speaking of that
Their
one,
power plant kind of on fire.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
Sorry, repeat that.
you can see a nuclear power plant on fire in the background.
Are you serious? I can't believe I missed that. That's so awesome.
Like, these
Oh
games
my gosh.
are very 90s in their sensibilities.
Oh my
Mhm.
gosh.
Nettie, you said something about the Russian one too when we were
Oh
watching.
yeah,
it.
so okay,
So
so
those-
one thing I really noticed about the Russian one is that you notice how like in the other countries there's always some kind of like a structure in the road for like a jump or something. Like in I think in the Japan one it's like these brick jumps. They're very nicely paved or whatever. And then in Australia you got this like really lumpy sort of like the outback, like bumpy roads and like the back roads and whatnot. But in Russia, you have broken roads, like potholes, and those are your jumps. And it's like anybody who knows anything about Russia knows that their roads are really poorly maintained. And only if you're drunk do you drive straight in Russia. so it was actually really hilarious to see something kind of accurate, despite the fact that you pass by like bits of I think it's like Saint Basil's Cathedral or something, like several times, and there's like a billion red squares, and like
And then at the end,
so
you
like
would see
the architecture in Russia
width
was
of
pretty
it.
wild, but at least they got the potholes right.
Don't forget about the ending of it, because it was basically cut and paste all over inside the ending.
What'd you say?
At the ending of the Russian map, or
Oh
track,
yeah,
it was basically cut and paste, cut and paste, cut and
it
paste.
really
towers
was.
and
It really
stuff.
was. And I probably see. Although you know what was really a cut and paste level? France. It's just sunflowers,
Oh.
flowers, wheat, sunflowers, wheat, flowers, wheat, flowers, sunflowers. It's just over and over again. Oh, and once you see the Eiffel Tower, and the rest of the time it's just wheat and sunflowers.
Well, I mean, that was like more technological limitations of the time.
Yeah, and I get that, and what's kind of part of the charm, part of the nostalgic charm of of every one of those places is it's like a greatest hits of X country, which is what kind of makes it fun because geographically it doesn't work at all, but it's just like, hey, you want to see all the greatest and most exciting things about this country? We just cut and paste them on the side of a race.
Like, I consider these games to be the like perfect exact halfway point between a kart racer and a realistic one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, speaking of realistic stuff, you know how this game is truly back in the 90s? They had the Twin Towers still.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
They did show the Twin Towers. It's actually kind of nice to see.
Definitely a different. That's one of those things where anytime you see him in a movie or something, you just kind of let out that sad sigh, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a downer.
Yeah, how are
sorry.
we gonna transition away from that? Shoot, we went from favorite track to what else?
The worst track.
Oh yeah, that's right. We were talking about worst tracks. Some of the bad
Oh.
things.
So Clancy, what do you think is the worst track?
I forget which one, but some of the early California ones, just because they got very samey and generic. I mean,
Copy and
it's the
paste.
first, huh?
Copy and paste.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Florida was pretty dull. I mean, aside from the fact that NASA shows up at the end, which is kind of weird because I always associate NASA with Houston. Damn you for not including Texas. Um, um, well, I mean, aside from the fact that NASA shows up, there really isn't anything. Okay, well, to be fair to Florida, the one thing that's cool about it is that there's a gator swamp. Except you don't really see any gators. There's just the swamp, and it's like, come on, give me a gator to run over.
I'd love to see if they had it in an Easter egg, some guy getting thrashed around by a gator.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
I'd say my least favorite level was from World was the Mexico one because I remember there were a lot of tricky turns in that one,
Mm-hmm.
and like some of I say I greatly prefer World over USA because the track design is more varied.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think USA is very much the first game.
Oh,
You know, as in they kind of fixed the bugs and everything.
mm-hmm.
Though, should say, just real quick, these games were developed by Eugene Jarvis. He designed the first 3 of the series. He's also famous for designing Smash TV, the game Defender, and a couple other series that you'll remember from back in the day.
I just want to ask: has anyone seen an arcade cabinet for Exotica?
Nope.
Play one.
No.
Oh, you
I
said
don't
you
even
did,
think I
Clancy?
saw one for USA.
Mhm.
I didn't even know there were other games until we started talking about doing a series, and I was like, series? What are you talking about?
And I was gonna make a joke earlier when I said how this franchise was really getting into Clinton years because I got like a used copy of the N64 port of Exotica. It had like a save file already on it, so in other words, I was once again able to skip right to the end of the game.
Oh.
Yes, and you see Bill Clinton in a hot tub with 2 bikini models.
And Exotica, too?
I'm actually not sure. All the footage I can find on YouTube of Exotica is just the N64 version, only a little of the arcade.
Aw.
I mean, it came out in 2000. It was before the end of his presidency, so.
Let me double check that.
Holy shit! They do it 3 times.
Oh my word, are you serious?
Yeah, the arcade ending for Exotica. It's him again.
Wow.
Oh my! Wow.
Wow.
What
See,
year
you
was
know,
the
if I was a
Exotica
kid
made?
and I played all 3 games, I would be pretty bummed if I got the same ending 3 times.
Though in Exotica, he's like on the hot tubs on a spaceship.
Oh my Lord.
So, I'm
I mean, they really
remembering.
couldn't get out of that joke, could they?
Though I do believe it's because I know they went through some censorships of like billboards in the background and whatnot.
Mhm.
but I'm trying to remember which one it was. I believe. Come on, come to my memory. Come to my memory. This is why we have editing.
Well, speaking of Billboard, since we're never going to do an episode on this game, I was going to want to bring up. Remember I showed you that like N64 port of that California Speed game I told you about? That there was like a creepy fucking Billboard message.
Oh yeah.
What? What did it say?
Well, I guess I'm gonna like type it and just look it up. I guess because some developer didn't realize it was being when they're doing the port, didn't realize, I guess, that they weren't going to use this just for like a filler spot. He typed in something and I'm copy pasting it, and this is precisely what it says. I'm not joking.
You don't want to read it out loud. Oh my word! That is awesome! Come on, we gotta read that. Come on, we gotta read that on the podcast. That's
Well,
great.
who can do the best creepy voice here?
Sometimes God
No,
takes
Daddy,
mommies and puppies
No, you don't
away.
have the perfect voice for that.
Hey, can you do better?
Let me see.
Well, how about we all try, and then Clancy just picks the best one in the edit to use?
Let's just all give it a shot.
Yeah.
All right. Sometimes God takes mummies and puppies away, and sometimes, just sometimes, I do.
Okay, Lynette.
Sometimes God takes mommies and puppies away. And sometimes, just sometimes, I do.
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, I'll go. Sometimes God takes mommies and puppies away. And sometimes, just sometimes, I do.
That was pretty good. I like that one.
Okay, I got goosebumps off that one. That was weird.
That was good. It had that somewhat childish voice.
Sometimes God takes mommies and puppies away. And sometimes, just sometimes, I do.
That was pretty good.
So just pick which one is the best in the edit, Clancy.
During Clancy's one, I had that static going. I heard static from him, and it was just perfect. It was such a static. His voice for that.
And like maybe in the video description, like throw a link to the article on the California Speed Easter egg just to give this context.
I will say another Easter egg I completely forgot about is this is another N64 deciding that we can't have fun things. There is, I forget the level, I think it's in Washington, D.C. when you go through that tunnel that's got all the money in it. I believe that's the one. Yeah, it's in Washington, D.C. You drive through that tunnel of money.
Mm-hmm.
In the arcade version, in the N64 version, it's just a bunch of $100 bills. But in the game version, it's Hillary Clinton on $1 bills with a big old cigar in her mouth.
Oh my word!
Well, somebody. Well, apparently they knew something was coming up in that.
Well, guys, you want to wrap this up?
Yep.
Sure.
All right. Well, Dave, how about you start us off with your final thoughts?
Well, these are just some fun games to check out, whether they be the arcade or N64 ports. They're a good source of nostalgia and just can give you a good idea of what the 90s were like culturally.
Mm-hmm.
They're just a fun feeling to have, a fun memory to experience. They're just something, like, I'm not like addicted to them, but I just find myself playing them every once in a while just to have an experience to do, you know.
Lynette, why don't you go next?
Alrighty, well, I would say my final thoughts are, I think this is pretty much like the perfect kind of arcade game because you don't really need to go. You don't. I mean, you going all the way to the end is cool to do once, but you never really need to do it again because all you really need to do is just play your favorite levels, and it's fun all over again. And the levels go so fast; they're like less than 5 minutes that you can have like all the fun in a limited amount of time, which is probably all the time you got in a pizza parlor, right? So it really was perfectly designed just as an arcade game. I think it's a really great experience, and it's really fun. Just it's the kind of thing you can pick up, play for 5 minutes, and still get a lot out of it.
Jake, go ahead.
Well, in conclusion, I would say that there are some games that I would like to play again, like the Cruis'n the World one. I would love to play that one again, but not only just for the nostalgia, just to like get the best record, just to play it to be like to get like the world record in time and stuff. It'd be nice, but like when it comes to me, racing games are like my best. I love them, and just seeing how it like one of the beginnings of the racing games started off. It's really cool how back then they were advanced enough to make a game like Cruis'n World, but back in the '90s, how we now have like Need for Speed and other games like Forza and I forget the other ones, but stuff like that I always loved. So it's kind of cool to see where the games came from.
Yeah. As for me, between these games and the original Gran Turismo, these were like my jam back in the day. I mean, I'd love to find an arcade cabinet, and there's something about arcade cabinets with racing games when they have the full wheel and everything. There's just so much fun to experience. But that concludes today's episode. But before we go, little tease. Dave, you got anything you want to say?
Well, I'm sure whatever the next episode is, it's somewhere out there.
I wonder if there'll be any cats there.
I hope.
In America? Nah.
All right, folks. Well, we'll see you next time, and don't worry, we're not gonna have it. And don't worry, folks, we're not talking about Taylor Swift in a weird CGI movie.
Oh my word.
All right, we'll catch y'all next time.
Clancy here.
Bye.
Just wanted to hop on and record a new outro for this. It's been a little while since I updated the old one, and just kind of wanted to talk to you guys more about where I'm at with my journey, and just kind of what you can do if you're struggling as well, because I know a lot of people probably skip over this part here, but I don't do it for them. I do it for the one person who may need it. That's how I think about this. If over the course of 1,000 videos, one person listens to it, it's worth it to me, because at one point, I was that same person. So, little update, since the last time I recorded a message here, I've been officially diagnosed as bipolar, which for some I know that's a big scary thing, but for me personally, it's kind of a nice just knowing what I actually have, And guys, mental health doesn't have to be a scary thing. There shouldn't be a stigma attached to it like it is. And I pray one day that at least for our next generation or something, we're able to move past the stigma we have and get on to a better future for everyone. But in the event you're ever struggling, there is a number you can call. I'm going to have it showing up on screen right now. And that number is 1-800-273-8255. 8255. Again, it's 1-800-273-8255. Guys, there's no shame in having to call that number if you need it. I've had to call it numerous times myself. I'm only in the last month in a place where I feel like they actually got my medicine right. So, just my words are, don't give up if you're struggling. There's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. I mean, if you guys know something about bipolar mania, apparently I've talked to a couple people who are also bipolar, and the urge to shave your head is a real thing. So that's why I've been rocking this look here lately. But anyways, you're going to have your struggles, but the alternative of not getting help just isn't an option. Don't do what I did and wait 27, 28 years where I wind up in the hospital before finally saying I need help. All right. Love all you guys watching this. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.